As you're probably aware, a Winnie the Pooh horror movie has been in the works for a little bit now. It's called Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, and I have been a big advocate for this thing since day one. I've had more anticipation for this film than a kid on Christmas, and I'm happy to report it actually released about a week or two ago, and I just was able to see it. And it sucks. It's a stinker. It's a terrible movie. Now, that information shouldn't shock anybody. Nobody's jaws should be on the floor right now. But I will say, it's one of those movies that are so unbelievably bad that it's kind of fun to see how bad it can get. But just to back it up for a second before I get into talking about the movie, I'm going to give you a bit of lore and just explain it to you if you're not familiar with this whole thing. The reason it was created is because Winnie the Pooh recently went into public domain. Pretty much all the characters except for Tigger. There's like 2 or 3 more years left until they can use him on one of those movies. So this wasn't made by the people who made Winnie the Pooh. It was put together by some random people on like a budget of glue and popsicle sticks, and it very much shows. I think the budget was like $100,000 or less than $100,000, and the box office, it's been a success from box office standards. It's made like $2.8 million already. So if you're going purely off statistics, this movie is a resounding success. Even the reviews, if you search it up on Google, it has a 2.7, but they're either 1 stars or 5 stars, and the 5 stars, people are giving like full essays about this movie, just writing about it, how great it is, and it's beautiful. I'm pretty sure they're in MLA format, they're citing their sources and everything. But if you just want a quick summary and rating of this movie and then you want to be on your way, click off this video. I'll just tell you, it's not good. Don't expect a decent movie whatsoever. There is 1 pair of boobies, so they got that going for them. Happens pretty early on, too. Overall, I would say the characters are like a 1 out of 10. You won't like any of the characters whatsoever. And going back to that paperclip and shoestring budget that I was talking about, the character design for the main antagonist, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, who are the 2 killers in this movie, it's so bad. The masks look like they just went to like a Halloween store and picked them up, and that's what they use. You can clearly tell that it's humans playing them, and they're supposed to be these human creature hybrid abominations. They have human hands, and the only thing that looks like the characters is these masks that they're wearing. There's even points in the movie where like the mask will move, and you can tell that there's like a human underneath the mask. It's just so bad, and they so clearly don't care about this movie, and that adds and makes it even funnier to watch. And as for the plot, I would give it a 0 out of 10 if that was an option, but just for the sake of it, we'll give it a 1. Go as low as it can go. Take the slider all the way to the left. It's not even comprehensible. I didn't understand what was going on whatsoever, to the point where I just kind of I shut my brain off and was just looking at the moving pixels on the screen. Don't expect something you can follow along with, and don't expect it to make sense. Everyone's there just as fodder for the kill count. And while we're on the topic of the kills, the biggest kill in the movie, the one that they put in the trailers and everything, the one they showed off, and the one they clearly wanted to be like the big moment of the movie, is when they steal the car of the girls, Winnie and Piglet do, and then they hog-tie this girl in the road, and then they run over her head. And the way they do it, the effects are so bad. Her eye like pops out of her head, and it's just so cartoonish. It reminds me of Jim Carrey in The Mask when he does that auga face and his eyes and mouth and tongue pop out. That's what that looks like. It doesn't look scary or good. It just looks goofy and silly. And it does not fit with the tone of the movie that they're trying to put across. It feels like this movie wanted to take itself seriously, but at the same time, at some points, it feels like they didn't take themselves seriously. The best way I can describe it and sum it up in 1 sentence, it's like a kid playing with action figures, and they make one of the good action figure turn evil and start attacking the other people. Like Thomas the Train, you say, "Oh, Thomas, you're evil now. Attack Superman. Oh, Thomas killed Superman. Oh!" It's like that. It's like a kid playing with action figures. That's the best way I can describe this movie. But now I want to get in and talk about the movie and like the major points that happen all throughout it, because it really is a roller coaster, man. It's got a lot of ups and downs, but mainly a lot of downs. So it starts off by giving you this backstory, trying to explain how this all came to be. And it says that there are like 5 critters in the 100-acre forest, and they're like human hybrid things. They're not animals, but they're not humans. They don't say how that happened. I don't know if like a woman had sex with a bear. I don't know. I don't just Put it to your own imagination. All you need to know is that they're there and they're lost or whatever, and then this is when Christopher stumbles upon them. He starts bringing them food. They establish this relationship. Everything's going good. They're hanging out, having a blast, pretty much like the cartoon does. And then one day, Christopher grows up. He becomes 18 and he leaves. He abandons them, so they have to fend for themselves. And since they're used to having food and everything brought to them, they have to end up eating Eeyore. They eat Eeyore to survive the cold, harsh winter, I think is what it was. They said it was like really cold and stuff outside, so they had to eat Eeyore so they wouldn't starve to death. And then ever since then, they stopped talking. That's why Piglet and Winnie don't talk in the movie. They stop talking, and then they swear their revenge on all of humanity. So like a villain origin story, pretty much. And then directly after that, we meet Christopher and his, I think it's his fiance, but he calls her his wife. I don't know if they're married yet, but it's his partner. And they're going to the 100-acre forest to meet Winnie and the gang. He wants to show her all these critters that he grew up with because she doesn't believe him. She thinks they're his imaginary friends, and she tells him this the whole time they're walking to the 100-acre woods, and then while they're going through the 100-acre woods. And he's like, no, you gotta believe me. They're real. I know they're real. I've seen them. I grew up with them. You gotta understand, you dumb woman. They're real. And she says, I'm here to support you. I don't believe they're real, but I'm gonna support you. That's why I'm here. But then they end up stumbling on their like old little hangout spot. And he's like, see, look, this is it. This is the hangout spot. It looks a bit different though. And there's like blood on some of the honey pots. You know, blood and honey. And then while they're walking through, she starts going, oh, I don't like this. We should leave. And he says, no, you gotta meet them. You gotta see them. And then they end up like grabbing the girl from behind with a chain. I think it's Piglet that does. He grabs her with a chain and chokes her. And he ends up killing her. And then they take Christopher hostage. And they end up tying him up. And then pretty much just torturing him. I guess that's their way to get revenge. They kill his wife and then leave him to just suffer the consequences of abandoning them. And that's all like the first 15 minutes of the movie. And then immediately after that, we meet the actual main cast, which is like, what is it, 4 girls, 5 girls? I don't know. I didn't keep count. They're all pretty much the same character. But the reason they go to the 100-acre woods is because this girl is in like therapy over something. This dude was like stalking her, and then she woke up one night and he was in her room trying to like touch her and stuff. It's a really weird story. But the therapist recommends that she should get away from everybody, go out and just like detox. So her and her gal pals end up going to the 100-acre woods, and surely nothing bad's going to happen to them there. Nothing worse than what she's already experienced. And I'm not going to talk about any of the interactions between these characters because it is so bad. It's so terrible. The dialogue is god-awful. I wish there would just be no speaking in this movie. Make it a silent film. Just have some dude playing the piano in the corner and just let me watch visuals. Because I don't care about any of these characters. Just show me Winnie and Piglet killing people. That's what I'm here for. Anyways, the 5 girls get to the cabin. They start settling in and whatnot. But for some reason, there's a 6th girl, and she's not with them. She's traveling completely on her own. And she gets to the 100-acre woods, but she doesn't know where the cabin is, so she's trying to get a hold of them. But since they're detoxing for the weekend or however long they're staying at the cabin, they don't have their phones. They put all their phones into like this bucket, so she can't get a hold of them. I don't know why they didn't wait for her to get there to do that, but she doesn't know where to go. She's lost. She doesn't know what's going on. They won't answer her phone calls. So Winnie the Pooh, spawns in the wood there, and he sees a human. He hates humans, so he chases her, and he kills her. But then, like about 30 minutes into the movie, about a third of the way through, we get this shot of like a warehouse with a bunch of hooks that have blood on them. And then we see that Christopher is actually being held hostage. That's when we find out he didn't actually die in the beginning. They're holding him there, I guess, to torture him and, make him pay for his sins. And there's this close-up shot that happens there of Winnie, and he's like drooling. And it's so stupid. It's the dumbest shot in the movie. Anyways, we cut back to the girls at the house, and this is another shot from the trailer when the girl's in the hot tub and Winnie and Piglet sneak up behind her. But we get a bit of extra lore here that's so unbelievably dumb. She's in the hot tub, she's taking, pics for the gram, different poses and whatnot. And after she takes the pictures and looks at them, she notices in the background is Winnie the Pooh. And she's like, oh, what's that doing back there? Who is that? So she gets out, does a little bit of investigating, snooping around, sticking her nose places, looking for this thing that she saw. But then for whatever reason, she decides that a creepy little critter in the woods, an abomination thing watching her, isn't a big deal. So she just goes back, turns her back to the woods, and sets back down in the hot tub, to which Winnie and Piglet sneak up from behind her and just get her. And the way they end up getting her, they put like a rag over her mouth. So I don't know if there's like chloroform on that. I don't know how they would have got their hands on chloroform. So either way, they're either like suffocating her or they're knocking her out with chloroform. I'm not really too sure. But regardless, that segues into the kill I talked about at the beginning where they hog tie her and then run over her head. And it looks like that scene from The Mask where the eye pops out of the head. That's when that happens. Now, at this point, Winnie and Piglet have the house surrounded, and I'm going to skip forward about like 15 minutes or so in the movie, maybe even 20, because nothing worth talking about really happens until this girl gets cornered in the pool room. She has a little standoff with Piglet in front of the pool, to which she stumbles and, clumsily falls in the pool, but afterwards, Piglet, he uses a chain. Sorry, I smacked you. I smacked your microphone. Sorry for your ears. He has a chain that he uses to, he used it to strangle Christopher's girlfriend, and he also carries a sledgehammer. That's his two weapons. So while she's in the pool, he uses the chain to try to, smack her, and it's one of the goofiest little scenes I've ever seen. It's like she's in the middle of the pool, and he just is outside of the pool, standing on above on the floor, and he's just, whipping the chain. He's just holding it, trying to hit her, like he's trying to almost catch her like she's a fish, going, wah. Why? And he's not even coming close to hitting her with it. So then he sets that down, pulls out the sledgehammer, and walks into the pool. And at this point, I'm so confused because I know it's a horror movie and they're maybe trying to be cliche or whatever. Why would the character, the girl, not just get out of the pool instead of continuing to go into the deep end? This pool is not very wide. At the most, I could probably come close to touching both sides just by doing this. And I'm like 5'10". I don't have a very big wingspan. She could have easily got out from the side of the pool and just ran outside, but instead she decides to run in a straight line down towards the deep end, to which Piglet chases her and then hits her across the face with a sledgehammer. Home run. And then after that, the other girls are kind of stalking Winnie, trying to hide from him at the same time. And this is when we get one of the dumbest shots, in my opinion. I think this is the dumbest shot in the movie. I mentioned how the Mask were very bad quality and they were very much obviously humans playing these things. And he's eating honey. He's just shoveling it into his mouth. But the way he's eating it, where the mouth doesn't really move whatsoever, he's kind of just smearing it on the mask and going, meh, meh. It's like trying to force someone to eat something when they won't open their mouth. It's like, here comes the airplane. And he's just rubbing it all over his face. And it's so goofy. This is the part of the movie that I laughed at so hard. It's just a good old belly laugh. He's just obviously not eating it. He's just smearing it all over the mask. And it's so good. But after that little pool scene where he kills that girl, they end up capturing Piglet and they end up tying him up with his own chains and then putting a rope around his neck. And then they take his own sledgehammer and then start beating him with it, start going to town, wailing on him, going left and right, getting that batting practice in. And then they end up hitting him over the head one good time, and I believe he's supposed to be dead. I'm 99% sure that Piglet dies there. And then Winnie sees this and ends up killing the girl who just killed Piglet. So it was an equivalent exchange, one life for another. You killed Piglet, but you died, so good job. But to go ahead and hop, skip, and jump down towards the end of this movie, we're only left with 2 of the main 5 girls now, and then they're running away from this cabin, away from Winnie and all that, and they run in to a car, which is full of these redneck dudes. There's 3 of them, and when they see these girls, they're saying, oh, he's chasing us, he's after us, he's gonna get us. And their first question is, are you girls on drugs? And then they see Winnie standing there menacingly in the road, and they walk up to him and they're like, hey, you like messing with girls, do you? You like picking on them women, do you? Yeah, we'll teach you a thing or two. And then they walk up there, there's I think there's actually 4 of them, and they got baseball bats and some other weapons and whatnot, and they start laying in on him, they start beating him, kicking him, swinging the bat at him, hitting him all up and down. And it's like that scene from Michael Myers on Halloween Ends, when they're all beating him up, and then at the end he just ends up overpowering them and killing them all. There's 12 dudes fighting him at once, and he somehow ends up winning. That's exactly what happens here. It's like a 4-on-1. They got weapons and everything. They're hitting him, but they're doing like 1 damage. And when he has like 10,000 HP, so they're doing nothing to him. And then he just takes them out one by one while the rest of them stand there in fear, just peeing down their own legs. Absolutely, they got to be pissing themselves. They're scared. So now after Winnie takes care of my brother cousins, the rednecks out there, there's only left with the 2 girls now, and they're in the truck, and they're trying to get it to start and get away from Winnie. And they do end up getting the car to start, but this is where it gets even wackier, and while they're taking off, Winnie ends up getting on top of the car. And there's like this car scene where they're driving and Winnie's on the top going like, oh, banging on the top like, let me in, let me in. She's trying to get him while he's on top of the car. And then what do you know, just like every single horror movie to ever exist, when someone drives a car, they end up crashing the car. To which Winnie ends up taking one of the girls out of the car and the other one's left in the car, and she's still like dazed and concussed after the wreck. So Winnie ends up decapitating and holding up the head for the other girl to see of the one he drug out of the car. So it's only the one girl left now, and she's trying to get the car to start again, which of course it's a horror movie. The car won't start. But then right before Winnie is able to get her out of the car and kill her, Christopher comes in zooming in a car and hits Winnie. But then instead of killing Winnie while he's already weak and like coughing up his blood and honey, he decides to go attend to the girl and give Winnie enough time to like push the car off of him. And then he's back out with vengeance. Like, you could have killed him right then and there. Winnie could be dead right now. But, you know, it's a horror movie. They make horrible decisions. They gotta do what they gotta do. They gotta make the movie bad. But then Winnie ends up getting the girl away from Christopher, and he's, like, holding her with the knife up to her neck. And Christopher's, like, trying to barter with him, like, I'll come back. I'll never leave you guys again. If you just let her go. If you let her go, I'll stay with you forever. And then he just cuts her throat. Winnie ain't trying to have no heartfelt conversations with a traitor. But instead of killing Christopher, Winnie decides to start stabbing her corpse in the head over and over again, giving Christopher enough time to run away. And that's where the movie ends. The movie ends with Christopher being a pussy and leaving that, you know, the girl there after he got her killed pretty much. He tucked his tail and ran from the 100-acre forest, presumably to never return again, because I guess the 100-acre forest is like a force field that the critters can't leave. It's like a barrier. If you're standing right outside the forest and they're in the forest, they can't get you or something like that. I don't really know how it works, but that's where the movie ends. It ends with Christopher surviving and running away while literally every other character we've met is dead. Winnie and Christopher are the only 2 left. And I kind of forgot to record an outro, so love you, bye.